Hi, welcome to this video where I walk you through how I built my Lemonade Analytics dashboard in Google Sheets. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and download your data from Lemonade. They usually send it to you in about 2 to 3 business days over email, and all you have to do is click on the link in that email to get your files already. I have my data downloaded, and what we're seeing here is what I've already imported and formatted. Since I've already downloaded and imported my data, I'm going to go ahead and delete it all and demo it again for you guys. So when I click back on the dashboard, this is what it looks. It's completely blank, as you can see here. Let's go back to the Post Data tab. From there, click on cell A1. To import your data, go to File, go to Import, and you would need to upload your file if you haven't already done so. I already did, so I'm going to go to Recent and hit my post.txt file. Then go ahead and hit Insert, change the drop-down to Replace Data at Selected Cell, then select Import Data. The first formula we use is this one here. We have a query function first, and what that query is doing is it's returning the first column of the A range where each row contains date, semicolon, space 2. And from there, we wrap it inside a split function. What the split is doing, it's going to split it at a space, and that would only give us the date instead of date, semicolon. We then wrap everything inside the array formula function, so that way Google knows to automatically return everything instead of us dragging this formula all the way down. And then lastly, you'll notice as a theme in this video is we're going to put everything inside an if error function, so that way if there is no data on that particular range, we don't get an error. Instead, we just get blank returned back. For title, we're using a very similar formula. Instead of searching for date, semicolon, space 2, we're going to search for title, semicolon. From there, we're going to replace title with space using the regular expression replace function here. And then wrap everything inside an array formula and if error as well. In order to extract likes, we're using the same formula again, but this time we're going to replace date, semicolon with likes, colon, and then we're also going to split on space here, wrap everything inside an array formula and an if error formula as well. For saves, the formula is exactly as the one we use for likes, except we replace likes, semicolon, with saves, semicolon. The formula for total engagements is pretty straightforward. All we're doing is taking the sum of likes and saves, and we're only doing that if column F has data in it. So if column F has no data, it's just going to return blank. And we wrap everything inside of array formulas, so that way we don't need to drag the formula all the way down. The last formula that we need on this tab is a one to extract captions for each post from the raw data. It's very similar to the formula that we've written for title. Instead of searching for title, colon, we're searching for caption, colon. And then again, wrap everything inside an array formula and if error formula. Since Lemonade does not provide data around follower counts, we're going to have to extract this from the website. What you want to do is go to your page, hit inspect, and you'll want to find the XPath related to the follower data number here. Using my account as an example, I'm going to open up each div until I get to the span that contains the follower count number. click on it, right click, and then go to copy full XPath. For now, you can paste it anywhere on the sheet. We'll just need it later. So the main function that we need is the import XML function. In order for the import XML function to work, it needs to have an URL. So that's what we're doing here. We're using concatenate to dynamically build that URL. And that URL is going to contain the first half of it and whatever value is inside cell S4. So this is where you can enter your account name. You don't have to do this. You can't just copy the URL from Lemonaid's website and skip this step. The rest of that function, you want to paste in the XPath that you copied. So again, from the top, we have concatenate to dynamically build our URL. Then we're using import XML to take that URL and extract the follower data from our page here. Of course, what we get from Lemonaid is not an actual number, it's actually a string, so we're going to need to parse it. In order to parse that, we're using two sets of functions here. We're going to search if a value has a k in it. If so, we're going to multiply by 1,000. If it has m, we're going to multiply by 1,000,000. If it has neither, we're going to assume that it's a number and return it as is. So I'm going to zoom in so that it's easier to see here. The search function is doing just that. It's looking for a k or an m, and if that's true, it's going to multiply it by 1,000 or 1,000,000. And if neither is true, it's going to assume that it's a number. And then lastly, we wrap everything inside the array formula, so that way we don't need to drag it all the way down. Lastly, in order to calculate growth, all we're doing is taking the difference between the current row and the row before it. We're only going to run this calculation if the column H9 has data in it. If not, then we'll return 0. And of course, we also wrap this one inside the array formula, so that way we don't need to drag this formula down. Now that we have all of our formulas entered, we can now automate it using app scripts. So to get there, you want to go to Extensions, App Scripts, and this will pop up a new window here. You can erase everything that was there and enter this function that we are going to cover. So I'll explain it line by line. First, we're declaring a variable that's equal to the spreadsheet that we have open. Then we want to go to the sheet that contains the follower data. In this case, we named it follower data. Next, we want to extract all of the functions that we have written. So to do that, we need to find the range. That range is from B9 to N9. Once we have that, we want to extract the actual values in that range, and that's what the getValue method will do. Once we have both of those two things, we want to identify the very last row on our spreadsheet. Google has a very nice method for that, and it's just get last row. Next, we want to take the formula that we copied and apply it to our target range. Our target range is the following row, so that's what that line is doing right there. Line 14 is doing. Next, we take the target row and paste our values into it. After we do that, in line 18 and line 19, we update the dates. Once the entire function is written, we're ready to test run it. The run button will be at the top. Once you hit run, you'll see that we added a new data into line 11. Let's do it again and add data to line 12 here. To fully automate this, we'll want to add a trigger. So back to the app script, click on trigger, click on add trigger, change the event source to time driven, and then of course you can change this to whatever cadence you like, but let's do weekly, and then set this to 8 in the morning, and then hit save. I'm not going to since I already have one. In this next section, I'm going to cover all of the formulas that we use in the dashboard tab here. For the total number of posts, we're going to use the count A function here. For saves, we're just going to sum up everything in column W. Similarly, for likes, we're going to sum up everything in column U. And then lastly, total engagement is the sum of likes and saves, so that's just M14 plus B14. Let's skip average posts for now, it'll make more sense later. For average saves per post, we're just going to take the total number of saves divided by the total number of posts. So that's M14 divided by D14. Similarly for likes, that's B14 divided by E14. And lastly, average engagements is AE14 divided by D14. Up next are our formulas that we use in our engagement analytics section. The first one is for day with the highest engagement, whether that's average engagement or cumulative engagement. This consists of two main queries. The first one finds the day with the highest cumulative engagement, and then the second two queries will find the day with the highest engagement by average engagement. And then lastly, those query functions will return a number, which we will then need to translate into a day using the switch function. And then lastly, we wrap everything inside if error, so that way if there's no data, we return a blank instead of an error. For a day with the lowest engagement, the formula is exactly the same as the one that we use for highest engagement, with just a few minor tweaks. And that tweak is changing order by sum y, the sen, into order by sum ascend for both queries. In order to return the actual number of average engagement or cumulative engagement, we use this formula here. It has two queries. The first query will return the number by cumulative engagement, and then the second query will return the engagement by average. Similarly, for a day with the lowest engagement, it's exactly the same formula, except instead of using the sen, we're using ascend in the queries. Now, if we want to know our content that did the best or worst, we can also do that. For the most engaged post, the formula that we'll use is this one here. Essentially, all this query is doing is it's going to order all of the posts by number of engagements from descending to ascending, and then it's going to return the highest one, and specifically the name of the post that has the highest engagement. For the least engaged post, I'm using a different function here. I'm using match and index. Match will find the row that contains the smallest number of engagements and return where it is in, or the row number that it is in. And then index will use that row number to return the name of that post. Next are the formulas that we use for the detailed summary tables. First is the post by year formula. Here we're returning the year and the count of how many posts were posted that year. Next, we create the bar charts using the sparkline formula. We pass in the current row value. We specify that it's a bar, and if that value equals the maximum in that range, the color will be blue, otherwise green. After we have this typed out for the first row, we want to drag it all the way down. Similarly, for posts by month posted, we're going to return the month and the count of posts in that particular month if the year equals the year that we have selected in our drop down. So that's what that AD and AD52 represents. It's this dynamic year drop down that we have created. We'll also want to create a spark line for this one as well. Once you create it for the first row, you'll want to drag it down to cover the remaining 11 rows. Here's a formula for saves by month posted. It's very similar to posts by month posted. Here we're going to sum up likes where it equals, or the year equals the year that we have in the drop down. Then create a spark line using this formula here, and then drag it all the way down for the remaining 11 rows. The formula that we use for likes by month posted is similar to the one that we use for saves, except instead of summing up column W, here we sum up U, because U is where the likes data is stored. Likewise, for engagement, we're summing up Y instead of U or W. And to create the bars, again, we're using sparkline. Once you make the first one, all you have to do is drag it down for the remaining rows. Then do the same for engagements. All that we have left now is to create a chart and the average post by months. Go back to the formula, follow our data tab, and select the entire table, and then go up to Insert and Charts. Change the chart type to area. Then remove everything under x-axis and series. For the x-axis, select the day column, which is column B. For series, you're going to want to add in the follower count, which is column N. Here you can customize the chart to your liking. I like to remove all of the major grid lines, so that's what I'm doing here. To add the chart to the dashboard, you'll want to copy and paste it to the dashboard. Once you have it pasted, you can do additional formatting to format it to your liking. Lastly, we have the average post per month section. What this formula is doing is it's going to the range E54 to E82 and checking if that's not empty. If it's not empty, it's going to divide each row by 12. And once those values are all together, the array formula will send it into the average formula, and the average will calculate the average across all non-empty values. And then lastly, if there is no data in that range, the if error will return back a blank instead of error message. So there you have it. That's all of the formulas that I've used in my Eliminates Analytics dashboard in Google Sheet. If you have a question or a comment, drop it down below and I'll do my best to help you out.